I wonder how long science is going to hang on to this ridiculous, unprovable notion that our planet is millions and billions of years old. If it wasn't for all of the ridiculous domestic and social upheaval going on right now, all of the lead stories would be science related because of what they're finding. And it has to do with the melting permafrost in the Arctic and the incredible amount of ice loss in Antarctica as well. We've covered that in other videos, but in this particular one, we're going to talk about a find that was made in some remote islands by some reindeer farmers. Now, the Lakovsky Islands are very remote. They're up near the Arctic Circle. I'll zoom out here real quick to show you. Way out north of Siberia. Now, they've been finding bear bones up here for hundreds of years. In fact, so many of them have been found throughout Europe, the cave bear specifically, what we're talking about here. They harvested them to use for phosphates when there was a shortage during World War I. So it's not like there's any shortage of bear bones up here. This, however, what they found was more than just bones. They have found a bear completely intact. Supposedly a bear that died out, the last specimen of it, 45,000 years ago. This, as you can see, is an actual picture. It has the nose, teeth. It looks like the teeth are actually quite healthy. It has fur, and a good portion of it is still buried, but from what they've been able to ascertain, it still has all of its soft tissues, meaning liver, stomach, all of this. Now, this isn't the first time. This is an articulated skeleton of one of these bears, much, much larger than the modern day bear. And this is just of any kind. It's even way bigger than the polar bear. The largest specimens of this have been supposedly weighed in at around 2,200 pounds. And they're, of course, judging that by the size of the bones versus the size of bones of bears that we know. So I think that part they're probably pretty close to right on. But there shouldn't be any way this is the case. And no one's talking about this. Let me just read a small snippet of this. The perfectly preserved remains of an Ice Age cave bear have been discovered in the Russian Arctic. The first example of the species ever to be found with soft tissues intact. The astonishing find was made by reindeer herders on the Lyakovsky Islands, which are part of the New Siberian Islands archipelago in Russia's far north. This is another picture of the same bear. Prior to this, only the bones of cave bears have been unearthed, but the specimen even had its nose intact. The discovery is of quote-unquote world importance, a leading Russian expert on extinct Ice Age species said. In a statement released by the university, scientist Lena Grigorieva said, "Today, this is the first and only find of its kind. A whole bear carcass with soft tissues. It is completely preserved, with all internal organs in place, including even its nose. Previously, only skulls and bones were found. This find is of great importance for the whole world." The adult animal was found by a group of reindeer herders, who then transferred the right to research the specimen to the NEFU, which is at the forefront of research into extinct woolly mammoths and rhinos. According to the team, the cave bear is a prehistoric species or subspecies that lived in Eurasia in the Middle and Late Pleistocene period and became extinct some 15,000 years ago. I'm sorry, I thought it said 45,000. Preliminary analysis suggests the bear is between 22,000 and 39,500 years old. Now, over here, this is an article from last year where they found this dog, this puppy that they thought was modern. But when they actually did the testing on it, it was an 18,000, allegedly, year-old frozen puppy. 18,000 years. There's no way. There is absolutely no way they can be anywhere near this old. And I'd like to share this with you today because some people haven't seen the actual evidence. of why Earth can't possibly be millions of years old. Even science can't explain this. Radiocarbon in diamonds. Okay, carbon-14 dating is what they basically use to determine how old something is. But it can't remain naturally in substance for millions of years because it decays rapidly. But in samples that they have found, that they have said are millions of years old, they have found this stuff. So how could that possibly be? This is the biggest one for me that I would love somebody to try to explain. Recession of the moon. The gravitational pull of the moon creates a tidal bulge on Earth that causes the moon to spiral outwards very slowly. Because of this effect, the moon would have been closer to Earth in the past based on gravitational forces and the current rate of recession. We can calculate how much the moon has moved away over time. If the Earth is only 6,000 years old, there's no problem because in that time, the moon would have only moved about 800 feet, 250 meters. But most astronomy books teach that the moon is over 4 billion years old, which poses a major dilemma. Less than 1.5 billion years ago, the moon would have been touching the Earth. Geology. Earth's decaying magnetic field. Like other planets, the Earth has a magnetic field that is decaying quite rapidly. We are now able to measure the rate at which the magnetic energy is being depleted and develop models to explain the data. Secular scientists invented a dynamo model of the Earth's core to explain how the field could have lasted over such a long period of time, but this model fails to adequately explain the data for the rapid decay and the rapid reversals that it has undergone in the past. It also cannot account for the magnetic fields of other planets such as Neptune and Mercury that don't have what they say is at the center of the Earth. However, the Creationist model, based on the Genesis flood, effectively and simply explains the data in regard to the Earth's magnetic field, providing striking evidence that the Earth is only thousands of years old and not billions. Dinosaur soft tissue. This basically goes along with the same thing we were just talking about, that they're finding things because of the melt that are in layers they are saying are far older than what the actual stuff in the layers is proving to be. Fossilized Tyrannosaurus rex femur with flexible connective tissues. 65 million years ago, allegedly. Human population growth. This is another one. Basic math can show us about the age of the Earth. We can calculate the years of human existence with the population doubling every 150 years to get an estimate of what the world's population should be after any given period of time. A biblical age of the Earth, about 6,000 years, is consistent with the numbers yielded by such a calculation. In contrast, even a conservative evolutionary age of 50,000 years comes out to a staggering impossible high figure of 10 to the 99th power, and that includes sicknesses and diseases and die-offs and exterminations and all that kind of stuff. And then the final and the last one here is tightly folded rock strata. When solid rock is bent, it normally cracks and breaks. Rocks can only bend without fracturing when it's softened by extreme heat, which causes recrystallization, or when the sediments have not yet fully hardened. There are numerous locations around the world, including the famous Grand Canyon, where we observe massive sections of strata that have been tightly folded without evidence of the sediments being heated. This is a major problem for evolutionists who believe these rock layers were laid down gradually over vast eons of time, forming the geologic record. However, it makes perfect sense to creationists who believe these layers were formed rapidly in the global catastrophic flood described in Genesis, and that makes sense to logic as well. They can't deal with what's happening right before their eyes. And they don't explain it. They just stick to it's dogma, truthfully, of how old things are and how things began and all this kind of stuff. But this is going to really shake some people. Because even in the permafrost, there's absolutely no way there should be internal organs in a bear that's that old, 15,000 years old. People can't even wrap their mind around 1,000 years. Or 2,000 years ago, the time of Christ. Supposedly, this bear died out 7 times as long ago as Christ lived. 2,000 years ago, Christ lived. Now imagine 7 more. And this bear survived with its fur, with its teeth, with its nose. during all of that. Sorry, not buying it. Not buying it. So I just wanted to give some people some, I guess, lack of a better term for weapons, in case anybody wants to bring this kind of stuff up and argue with it. But the Liakovsky Islands are proving to be one of the biggest assets we'll have in revealing the actual truth about things that are really important. And I'll leave it there. Like, share, subscribe.